right.
Most of the time it's news,
I was pretty shocked.
listen to something that I don't think you'd be interested in, and I didn't even like it.
Even the Alabama
That's very
we're
disappointing.
let back into it.
It's
Pulled it out.
because usually Alabama
Well,
doesn't.
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
All right.
I've heard about that, but I haven't listened to it yet, actually, so I should probably.
Oh, that pizza was good. Thank you, guys. Need that energy. All right. So our minds are naturally drawn to cause and effect. It's what science is based on. It's what our learning is based on. So whenever we see certain things, whether it's a Batman, Wonder Woman, or little Anakin Skywalker, how'd that happen? Our minds naturally want to know, we see the effect, what's the cause? And it's not just in fiction, nonfiction. How did she rise to that level of being so dominant? How did Elon Musk get to where he's at? How did our country come to be? Well, the cause and effect that our minds are drawn to, Hollywood loves that. It's cashed in huge on those origin movies. But more important to us is, what about our origin story? Because if we're the effect, whatever caused us is going to determine a lot in our lives. Do we have objective purpose? What's a real meaning to life? And what's our hope of getting there? Or expectations? It's all based on where we came from. And so that's what we're going to look into, and we're going to do it in 3 parts. First, we're going to look at what our options are. What are the options for the cause of the universe? You might think it's unlimited. Oh, it could be anything, we just can't know. No, that's not what science is saying. What's the evidence? Yeah, we're going to look at the evidence, just like Hubble and Einstein are doing there. That's Edwin Hubble, who the Hubble telescope was named after, and obviously Albert. And then finally, your choice. In the end, this is for you. So stop me at any point, ask any questions, have any, if you want to disagree with something, feel free. This is for you, because in the end, your choice is going to be based on whatever kind of evidence that you can bring in your life. This is up to you. You don't listen to, I always encourage people, don't listen to don't just accept what a professor, an expert, a parent, a preacher, or someone like me tells you. Take in your own information and make your own choice, because you're the ones who are going to have the consequences from it. All right. So there's this group of guys, they were friends, and they were going on these little adventure trips when they were in high school and college. And after they became pretty successful, they're a successful group of guys, they decided to keep their adventure trips going, but now they step it up a notch. Every few years they go somewhere incredible. So this one, I think they did a hike in, I think it was, I can't remember, it was either North or South Pole area. And they're traveling along, and all it is just jagged mountain peaks, just covered in snow and ice, all white, except for their little bright selves and their coats. But then all of a sudden, 2 of them just disappeared. Now, normally that'd be kind of funny. But they realized, okay, before we can start laughing about this, we need to go over and make sure we can get them out, because it's a little bit dangerous. If you fall in too deep, snow covers on you, now you're going to look at some trouble. So the rest of the group, they go around the 2 holes, and when they looked, they didn't see their friends, where they thought. Their friends had fallen over 100 feet straight down. And the rest of them realized, into their horror, we are on an unsupported ice ledge. And they had to kind of get their selves back, which they did, but they lost 2. So many of us are on an equally unsupported ledge of ice when it comes to what we're basing our life on, our worldview beliefs. You don't have any foundation. You might think you do, but there's going to be a time where life and reality is going to drop you through your lack of foundation, unless you know you got good reasons to believe what you're believing. All right, here's a bunch of really common questions people have about, they bring against, for example, Christianity. If I'm doing a debate at a university or something, here's common questions they bring. They're good questions to ask. And a lot of people think these are so so difficult to answer, I don't know where to start. In just 20 minutes today, we can have answers to all these. And if you want, at the end of the Q&A, ask me one of them, and I'll show you how to answer it based on what we covered. And you should see the questions, the tough questions you could bring against atheism, or agnosticism, or Islam, or Hinduism, or Mormonism, or any other belief system. All right, so part one. What are the options for the cause of the universe? First, I'm going to give you the options, then I'm going to give you the evidence. Here's the options. Now, people think, oh, it's so hard, there's so many different belief systems that's just being lazy. Look into it before you start saying it's too hard to figure this out. Whenever an agnostic, person who claims you just can't know about beliefs, you should always ask them, how do you know you can't know? Usually it's laziness. They just don't feel like looking for the evidence. Because whenever I question an agnostic, well, have you looked into the evidence? Yeah, there's just not enough to convince me. I was like, okay, well then you know about the evidence of fine-tuning then, right? What is it? Yeah. That exposes them. All right, but this is a lot simpler than people make it. There's only 4 general beliefs to have. One of them is pantheism. All God and all nature is the same. When you die, you'll merge into the energy and be one with God and the universe again. Or when you reach your enlightenment, you can get there. That's Hinduism, New Age, paganism. Another belief system is that all is just nature. That's all there is. There's just matter, energy, space, and time. There's nature. Atheists believe this, most agnostics, until they're going through something and need God, then they move over. And Buddhism is actually here too. Buddhism, it depends what area of Buddhism you're in, but originally, Siddhartha Gautama, however you pronounce his name, this is where he was. There's theism. Theists believe there's nature, our universe, but there's also a God completely transcending or beyond our universe. And then finally there's agnosticism, where we just don't know. Which I think is actually more apatheism. They're just apathetic than actually no. Okay, now, real simple way to do this. This isn't that hard. There's only 2 choices for most of this. If we exist, there's only 2 possibilities. Either there was no beginning to the universe, and the universe just always existed and doesn't need a cause. Or there was a beginning to the universe, and the universe needs a cause. Every belief system not founded on the Bible was here. All of science and every belief system said there was no beginning. Maybe it cycles, but there was no beginning. Every piece of evidence we now have says they are wrong. So every one of those belief systems not founded on the Bible has a major strike against it. Now, atheists, for example, said there was no beginning, but now they're trying to come up with other answers that still keep them away from theism. We are here. If you want some evidence for this, I can give you it in the Q&A, but all the evidence supports it. The way I usually make this joke when I'm at U of M, because I had a big debate at U of M, I said, when all the evidence is on one side, and there's no evidence over on this side, even a graduate from Ohio State can figure out what that means. We had a beginning. Now, if we have a beginning, you need to have a cause and effect, which all science and your learning is based upon. Now, again, there's only 2 possibilities. Yeah, this is basic logic. Either there was a personal intelligent cause, or there was not. Those are our only options. This isn't too difficult. And the evidence is in. We'll start looking at that. The evidence involves some of the greatest names in science, multiple Nobel Prize winners, and some of what scientists have called, like Hawking have said, some of the greatest discoveries in all science. And here's what we know. Next. This is Jan Levin, I think it is. She's a physics and astronomy professor at Columbia University. Her and a number of other atheists and agnostics, I usually use their material so people don't think I'm using biased stuff. They put out a video that was on like some nature show, Nova or one of those ones. And I got the video on the website when my website gets out. But basically, what I'm going to give you now is the well-established, all evidence supporting modern scientific understanding of where we came from. All right? First, there was nothing. There was not anything. No matter energy, space, or time. A lot of people think that There was, when they hear Big Bang, which is not called the Big Bang, now it's the lambda cold dark matter model. That's what the modern version of it. Same thing, but a little bit more advanced and refined, and all the evidence supports it. A lot of people think that there was some empty space, a vacuum of space, and that's what the universe popped into. No. Just like Jan 11 said, something much more profound. There was not anything, not even a vacuum of space. Then all of a sudden, all of the universe came into existence in a super dense, super hot beginning. In fact, it was so dense and hot, not even light could escape, so even if you were there, you couldn't see it. And immediately from there, it starts expanding and decaying following fixed laws of nature, and gives us the matter, energy, space, and time that we're living in now and we know today. Now, if this is true, which all of the evidence says it is, and no evidence is contradicting this, we now know the properties of the cause of the universe. Here they are. And think about this. Let's say we have a box, two sides to the box. On this side is all nature. All matter, energy, space, and time. All nature of the physical universe. What do you automatically know about the cause of the universe now? Which side of that box is it going to be on? Here? Can it be part of nature?
That's the outside of nature.
Nature is, yeah, I see some people, you know, nature is what was created. You cannot have a cause that's part of nature, because nature, all of nature is what was created. So anybody who believes in naturalism, that nature is all there is, they are disproven. We know this. It might not have filtered down to the general public because of poor education, and I was in secondary education, so I can criticize if I want to. Poor education. How you don't have the most important scientific discoveries, getting your basic ideas down, is really weak. So, one thing we know about the cause of the universe, it's outside of all that is part of the universe, all of nature. If you say X creates Y, yeah, that makes sense. If you say X creates X, that's nonsense. You'd have to go back in time before yourself and then create yourself and everything else. Nonsense. That's how come we know it's not a natural cause of the universe. Here's another thing. It's also, whatever's the cause of the universe, it has to be outside of time because time is what started. It has to be outside of time. And from the earliest philosophers and science all the way up till modern times, you can read people talking about, like Aristotle and others talking about, you have to have some kind of uncaused first cause that is existed forever. Because here's why. If the universe has a cause, but the cause needs a cause, needs a cause, needs a cause, needs a cause, you'd go back infinitely, which is not possible. So, at some point, you have to have an uncaused first cause by philosophy and science. The problem was, for people who didn't follow the Bible, they always thought it was just the universe, so we don't have anything to explain. Universe always was. Now that they found out it has a beginning, that means it's contingent. It depends on something that is not contingent, that always existed, and that is an uncaused first cause. That's the second property. Here's a third. There's something called second law of thermodynamics in physics. One of the most proven things there is in physics. One of the most supported, I should say. Now, what it's basically saying is, I'll just make a simple version of it. The universe will have started with a certain amount of order or power, energy to do work over time. It has a certain amount of power it starts with. And as time goes on, it inevitably goes down. This is another reason why we know the universe didn't exist forever, because if it existed forever, not a single star you'd see shining. If you ever look up and see a star shining, it means we still have fuel, because they run on hydrogen and other fuel. It's like the universe started with a big gas tank, and it's never going to get a refill. You can't drive that thing forever. Eventually it's going to run out and you get what physicists call heat death, where you have no ability to do anything anymore. So now, right now we have a certain amount of energy in the universe, and it inevitably will go down every moment. But let's take it all the way back to the beginning. If you go back to the beginning, at that very moment of creation, you had the most power that the universe ever had. And the cause is greater than its effect. Therefore, the cause has to have more power than the sum of all power in the entire universe, including its trillions of stars with their, our sun's, I think it's doing something like 564 million tons of hydrogen converting into 560 million tons of helium, and the rest giving off as energy, something like that, with all nuclear fusion. That's going on all throughout the universe. Whatever created the universe has more power than all that. Here's another one. Whatever caused this, it has to be able to act beyond the natural laws or limits. We have proof of that. There's something in physics, again, one of the most accepted thing in physics, law of conservation of matter and energy. Matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. You can turn them into each other. That's what Einstein's equation was. E equals mc squared. E is energy, m is matter. You can turn them into each other, but you can't create or destroy them. Yet, whatever the cause of the universe was, it created all matter and energy out of nothing. That violates the most basic natural laws. And finally, whatever the cause of the universe is, it must have the ability to make a choice, which I'll show that in a minute. But let's just make this as simple as can be. The cause of the universe, outside of all nature, that's supernatural by definition. Transcendent or supernatural, or metaphysical. When I was doing the debate, the atheists didn't like the word supernatural, and I said, I can see why you wouldn't like that, but that's what it is. It's beyond nature. That's supernatural, but you want to call it metaphysical, that's fine. Supernatural. If you're outside of time uncaused, that's eternal. If you have greater power than the sum of all power in the universe, that's pretty mighty. If you can act beyond the natural limits of the universe, that's miracle working by definition, a violation of natural law. And if you can make a choice, that's personal. So we have a supernatural, eternal, almighty, miracle working personal cause. What does that sound like to you? This isn't me just making this up trying to make science fit. The atheist and agnostic scientists that found these discoveries, their quotes, they see the same thing I do. And this was 3,000 years before modern science figured it out. This is how big this is. So right now, this is what we know about the universe. I just gave you the most well-established, what we know about where we came from. Here's all the properties that the cause must have. Now, what's our conclusion from this? Well, first of all, science and theology certainly interact because they both study the origin of the universe. Second of all the belief systems not founded on the Bible were wrong about the most important fundamental question that there is. The Bible got it right. Not only did the Bible get it right, but it got it right in a way that helped correct science. Science also helps correct biblical interpretation because those people in the church during Galileo's time, Galileo and Copernicus both said, nah, Earth goes around the sun, it's moving. But Aristotle's idea that the Earth was non-moving was picked up by everyone else, including the Catholic Church, who went after Galileo. It took science to help biblical interpretation. They said, no, you guys got this wrong. Even Galileo and Copernicus were believers. They just said, you guys are interpreting it wrong. Now, in this case, the Bible fixed a science misunderstanding for thousands of years. Now, here's the biggest one. One of the best ways you can know that your model or your belief or your claim is accurate is if it can predict stuff no one should have known. When Einstein came out with relativity, some of his predictions sounded nuts, and people treated him like that. They said, it's nuts. No, I'm not jumping on your Einstein bandwagon. When some of his predictions started coming true, like you have two atomic clocks perfectly matched, but you put one on some flight that's going flying across the world that's further away from the center of gravity and so on, time will run differently in those two clocks. There was also other things like gravity bending light. When we start seeing that, we're like, oh, relativity is onto something, and then everyone jumped on his bandwagon. Same thing's happening here. Well, you have multiple clear, specific predictions 3,000 years in advance of modern science. That better ring your bell. That is a gigantic test for truth. How gigantic? No other human source has ever matched it. So here's a takeaway. If you forget everything else today, just remember this. How can you know if there's a God behind something? I mean, Hindus who think there's God behind the Vedas, or Muslims think the Quran has Allah behind it. Some sad people even think that L. Ron Hubbard had wisdom behind his invention. Bottom line is this, though. The only way, well, one of the ways I'll say, you can know a God's behind something is it better show something that's beyond human ability. Otherwise, I'm just going to say, why is it different from any other man-made thing? When I went to UC Berkeley, we had hundreds of atheist graduate students, undergraduate students, and professor. And when I told them the predictions of the Bible, I just showed you 6 predictions the Bible made about the cause of the universe. You should see the ones it makes about the beginning of the universe. There's 6 more, and they're unbelievable. This is a dozen predictions that are multiple, clear, specific, 3,000 years advanced in modern science that went against every other belief system of the time. Everyone else thought these Bible claims were nuts until they were proven. If you don't think that's beyond human capacity, then there'll be many other human examples of it. What are they? Give me some. Nostradamus? You bring that up, I'll smack that down hard because that's annoying. You better do some research. When I did this at UC Berkeley, I said, all right, if you don't think, I said, don't you think the Bible's worth looking into more? It's made a dozen predictions no one should have known. Nothing humans have ever done has come close to that. It's not humanly possible. So, if you think it's only by humans written, give me some examples. Give me all the different examples. There should be a bunch. Throughout all of history, give me some other examples that are equivalent to that. Dead silence. They said, oh, well, there's errors in the Bible. I said, oh, you see what you just did, right? You just went off on a little rabbit trail because you don't want to answer my question. I'll answer the error question if you want. Let's stick to this. Then I let it go for a little uncomfortably long silence. Then they had some other thing. I said, you see again, right? That's a rabbit trail thing. I don't remember what it was. I said, here's the question one more time. If you don't think the Bible has a God behind it, it's just human made. Show me other examples that do this. And then I let that silence go for so uncomfortably long. And then I just said, silence speaks loudly, doesn't it? If I was an atheist, I don't know how you go to sleep at night. All right, so where are we at now? We know the properties of the cup. Well, first of all, we're here. This and this is disproven. It's not possible. We know there's not just nature. This is no good anymore. The atheists had to jump to something else. I can tell you what they jumped to if you want. It's nothing safe, and it's not supported with any evidence. In fact, it's making a logical fallacy. But you can ask in Q&A if you want that. Pantheists who believe this, God and nature, this made me kind of sad. I actually saw this big New Age cult thing where they had all these people come and, so I went in there and I was like, so what do you believe? And he was basically giving me the Hindu thing, which in California they should turn it into New Age. And I said, so what happens when you die? Or when you get enlightened? Well, you become one with the universe. And I said, and you said, so you're one with God and all nature as energy or whatever? He said, yeah. I said, well, you know you're God and you're going to die then, right? He said, what? I said, there's heat death. Like I told you this before, second law of thermodynamics. Entropy always increases, which means you're going to use up all available stuff, and eventually you'll have a cold, dark, dead universe. And I felt so bad because he just went, you could just see the discomfort and spinning. Now you got to keep this in mind. We're not trying to win arguments, we're trying to win people. We want them to make the best decision that's for them, that's loving for them. So that made me really sad, but I'd rather